Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be talking about some do's and don'ts for barefoot training. First of all, I would imagine most of you are already familiar with barefoot shoes. Just an easy recap. They're minimalist shoes. They're going to be flat with zero heel drop, thin soles making them flexible, and they're going to have a wide anatomical foot shape. So the idea is you're wearing these for your foot and ankle health with the goal of preventing and hopefully reversing some foot conditions. I'm going to start off first with the don'ts. Some of this is going to be based on my personal experience as well as the experiences from many others that I've talked with or from online forums. We're going to kind of go through the three big ones that I've seen and or experienced, and then what you should do instead. And the first don't is gonna be guessing your sizing. And now the reason that this can be a problem is because one, a lot of brands are gonna have lots of different fits. And so you can actually go onto the websites and look at their size charts, and you'll see that some brands will have a different size chart that corresponds to different shoes. So these shoes, one looks bigger than the other, but the one that's bigger is a smaller shoe size. This is a smaller shoe size than this. That's one problem that you can run into, and especially because we're doing a lot of shopping online and not in store, the return process can be a pain. We're gonna go in later in the video on what to do instead, but the first big mistake is to guess your sizing. Now the second don't, and I think this is one that a lot of us are guilty of, myself included, is to essentially go in 100% from the beginning, to the point of even tossing all your old shoes out and starting fresh. The problem with this is it can really make the transition period rough. A lot of us underestimate that transition period. It's not short by any means, can be several months long, longer for some. And that can just lead to an overall negative experience, which will either make you kind of have to suffer a long time through that period or just make you give up altogether. There's a good chance lots of you guys are already active. That can also carry over of trying to maintain the level of activity you have, the mileage that you have, but doing a full flip over to doing it in these minimal shoes. And the foot and ankle is just not ready for that, and that's okay. But that's second big mistake that I see, trying to just jump 100% in, do everything you were doing in these and not taking that time and mindful build up in them. Now the third mistake that I see is just relying on the shoe itself to make the change, to improve the foot and ankle health. While the shoe is the tool that will help get you there, ultimately we want to make some lifestyle changes, habit changes that pair with the shoes to get you to that better foot health, better ankle health. Good analogy that I kind of think of as a trainer, I see people who sometimes think that buying a piece of equipment, buying an hour with me is gonna be enough on its own to get them to where they wanna be. And while I can provide guidance, while the equipment can be a tool to get there, it's up to those day-to-day changes that will actually get them to reach their goal. And so that's how I like to think about it for the shoes. So we covered those three big don'ts, the common mistakes that a lot of us make when getting into the shoes. So now let's go ahead and cover what we should do instead. Coming back to our sizing. First thing that I can do to help improve the sizing is just research. Go on to each website. Don't order a shoe without first having checked the size chart, without first knowing your own foot's size and length and width. That way you're not going in blind. If you wore a size 10 in Nikes, that might not translate to size 10 in one of these. So do your research, read reviews, YouTube, Reddit, whatever it might be, get an idea of where you fall. Sometimes that's not always going to be good enough. There's going to be that one shoe that we just can't find enough on. And so another helpful tool or tip is to shop at REI, Amazon, places with good return policy where you can try it on, and if it doesn't work, you're not going to have a huge issue of returning it or exchanging it for the right size. A good recommendation for your first shoe would probably be to get something that's a little more popular or a little bit more popular of a brand, because then you will have more information on it. So that can be tough sometimes, where if it's an obscure model from an obscure brand, there might not be reviews out there to check or be the option to buy from Amazon. So I would recommend starting with something more well-known at the start. Moving on to our second mistake, which was jumping in 100%, tossing out all your old shoes, trying to make a full 180 flip. This is probably an area that I kind of shifted, and as I wore shoes more and worked with people who wore them, I changed my perspective in that starting off, you're gonna do well to have a minimal shoe, but I would definitely try as your second pair to get something a little more cushion that still retains the important qualities of the foot shape and the zero heel drop. Now, the reason why is because that just makes it so much easier to continue to reap the benefits of the big stuff, which is especially the toe box and the zero drop, but allow your foot and ankle to rest, which can especially help reduce chances of like plantar fasciitis buildup or just general achiness in like the top metatarsal areas. Start minimal and then maybe get yourself something with a little more stack height to rest in between. Now, if you don't have that option, you can always just get like a more hybrid. So Lems is a good example of kind of that hybrid where it's medium cushion. If you don't feel like that'll be best for you and you just want the minimal option, then get the minimal option and maybe don't throw out some of your more forgiving shoes. Hang on to those for a little bit as your recovery shoe until you can expand into some broader options. And lastly, our third mistake was not changing much, just relying on the shoe itself and hoping that everything will come from there. The reality is that if you're getting into these shoes, you're trying to improve your overall health, and to improve overall health, you have to make some lifestyle changes, habit changes. So a few easy ones that will pair very well is the use of toe spacers. So toe spacers, as they sound, it's just a little gel insert that kind of goes in between your toes and allows the toes to have some space between them. This is especially helpful if you've been wearing tight shoes a long time. Some of our toes may already be crooked or pointed inward. This is helping to physically push it back out, and then the use of the shoes strengthens those small tendons and muscles to retain that aligned shape. Now build these up gradually, just as you would with the shoes themselves. The other change that we want to look at is just your gait. How are you stepping when you walk, when you run? Usually, because we're so cushioned with our other shoes, a lot of us are going to have a really hard foot strike, and that's something that can lead to injury or overuse when wearing minimal shoes. So whether it's walking's going to be a lot softer. Walking can be a light heel strike. Dr. Todd Martin is a fan of the light heel strike, or just a typical midfoot strike. If you're stepping softly and it feels right and comfortable, you should be good moving forward with that. With running, typically now we're going to move more to that mid or forefoot striking. The heel strike will be a lot less forgiving with running, where we're landing with 3 to 4 times your body weight every single step. That's the next thing that you're going to want to change, is just your gait, how you step when you walk and run. Now you're building up a whole new structure, your foot and ankle, with dozens of bones, over 100 tendons, ligaments, muscles. So just as if I were starting to train my legs and I wanted to change my lower body health and train my legs, I have to expect some discomfort, some soreness for a while, for months to come. That's something that you should be ready to embrace, is there's going to be some soreness, some discomfort. That's a good sign, letting you know when to rest and then when to build back up. Expect it to be moderately uncomfortable. Never let it become more than that. otherwise risk injury. But like Steven Sashin from Zero always says, I never wear comfortable shoes. That's kind of how it starts out, is that it's going to be a build-up. And the last big change to make is going to be incorporating strength and mobility. And that's probably the biggest thing that you can do, is to strengthen all the muscles and joints surrounding. I'm gonna cover a video in more detail going through what some of those exercises are, what some of those stretches are. Strengthening your calves, your Achilles, your soleus on the backside, strengthening your tibialis on the front side, all these muscles. Strength should usually take priority, but it's going to be important to stretch these muscles as well. Get things limber and loosened to give your foot that extra mobility. More to come on that, but those changes are going to be some of the biggest things you can do that make this worth it and make a difference. So I know that was a long one today. If you're still here, appreciate you hanging around. As always, please feel free to ask any questions that you have in the comments. I'm usually good about getting back to comments within the same day. Let me know if you've had any big mistakes and what your advice would be for that. Appreciate you stopping by. Train like Hill, out.